couple of things. I think, one, I do want to tell you how honored I am to be here with our Miami Lakes full house and table. And I'd be remiss without saying this. I think that one of the most important things that I did as a small town mayor was introduce the Mayor's Faith-Based Initiative, which is one of our best mechanisms to reach out to the people through the churches. Separation of church and state does not mean you cannot love God, love the church, and partner with the churches in your community. And separation of church and state does not mean you have to lose sight of the fact that it's all God's plan, and we're always doing God's work. And I think that as one of the reasons I'm supporting Bill McCallum is because, like myself, he's demonstrated over a lifetime Bill's demonstrated a very important principle, and that is, if you stick to your faith, if you stick to your moral compass, if you stick to your belief in God, no matter what you do, as long as you stick to your moral compass and stick to your faith, as Bill's done for so many years, you will always be doing the right thing. You will always be doing the right thing. And you will never, ever fail the people. And because Bill McCallum has never lost his moral compass, and has never lost his principles, and has never lost his overriding and abiding faith in God, he's never failed the people of the state ever. Bill, people talk about the Tea Party these days. Bill McCallum, for 20 years, was a one-man Tea Party before we heard of it. People talk about, all of us, talk about the Reagan Revolution. We talk about the Reagan tax cuts. We talk about how Ronald Reagan restored, how he restored our moral compass. More than anything else, Ronald Reagan undid the malaise and restored a moral compass to this country. Well, I'm here to tell you, there is no Reagan legacy. There is no Reagan revolution without the support and encouragement of Republican congressmen who passed the Reagan tax cuts. There's no Reagan revolution without Bill McCallum in Congress supporting Ronald Reagan's plan. Finally, I think there's something else that's important to point out. People talk about profiles and courage and standing up when you're competing against the enemy and the forces of evil. I remember during the Clinton administration, the malaise came back. There were some dark days in this country. We lost our moral compass. Our children, people were not setting an example in Washington for our children. People were not talking about faith. People in Washington were acting as if God and church and morality wasn't irrelevant, that it wasn't as relevant as it should be. And I remember during the Clinton impeachment trials, when there was a lot of things going on, one of the people who was my hero, there was a small group, when this nation was losing its moral compass during the Clinton administration, and we needed heroes, there was a small band of heroic Republican congressmen led by Bill McCallum, who stood up in front of the entire nation and said, you know what, we've got to get our moral compass back. And I remember watching on CNN saying, you know what, this man was willing to stand up to the President of the United States in front of the whole country, whatever the consequence, and stand up for moral values and do the right thing when it truly counted and set us on the right path. Bill McCallum, who was one of the instruments of the Reagan Revolution. Bill McCallum, who stood up for morality and faith in God and stood up to the Clinton administration when we needed him, when we needed heroes like that. Bill McCallum has never, ever, ever been a politician. Bill McCallum has been a servant. He's been a servant of God. He's been a servant of his nation in the U.S. Navy. And he was one of the best congressmen this state ever had. He fought for tax cuts. He fought for God. He fought for all the right things. So let me say this. I want to introduce to you a man who's always fought for God. He's fought in the military. He's fought for tax cuts. I want to introduce a man who's a true public servant, the next governor of the state of Florida, the best friend we ever had, Bill McCallum. Thank you.
That's a heck of a vigorous introduction. I like that. I'm honored by it. I'm honored by it. Barry Collins and your whole Miami Lakes crew I've known for a long time. I'm honored to call them supporters, and I'm just delighted that Mayor Julio Urbina is here as well today. And Mayor Hiley, who's a good supporter of mine. I don't know if we can call it. Representatives, Steve Bobo and Representative Carlos Lopez Montero, they're both supporters of mine too, and I'm glad they're here today. And Renee Garcia, I know he's a supporter of mine as well. And as you know, I'm honored that Congressman Lincoln Diaz-Balart is my chairman in Dade County. And his brother Mario and Ileana Ross-Layton have been longtime friends and supporters. And the most of all, while I'm talking about supporters, I suppose I should tell you I'm going to be campaigning with a fellow you know best down here on Monday all day, my endorser and friend, former Governor Jeb Bush. Let me tell you, Anthony Verdugo, it's great to be here with the Christian Family Coalition. You and I have spoken many times. I've come before this group on other occasions, wearing my hat as Attorney General and for other occasions and other reasons. I'm always blessed to be here. I want to tell you why I'm running for governor. Ingrid and I, my wife, were married 38 years ago. We have 3 sons. We have 2 grandsons. We have a 3rd on the way. We think it's a little girl this time. It's about time. This election is about them. It's about our children and our grandchildren and your grandchildren and making Florida a better place for them. That's what it's about. And when you really think about family, we think about God, and all of us this morning are Christians who are here today, committed. Understand that everything comes from God. Everything comes from our faith. Everything comes from our families too, because it's in that order. And we as a nation were founded that way. When the Founding Fathers got together and wrote the Declaration of Independence, they were Christians. There were several of them who were ministers, several of them sons of ministers. The faith in God has always been there and driven us. It's driven me. It's also been what I've turned to every time, for everything. In my family and in my life, I'm looking out right now and looking at where this state needs to go. And I know that values are important. And I know that, for example, when a bill comes to my desk, and it's going to come there, like it came to Governor Christ's desk this year, that has the opportunity to sign a provision that says before a woman has an elective abortion, she's going to have to see a sonogram. And before she has an elective abortion, she's going to have to think twice about it. And that bill also contains in it, which I hope it does, a provision that bans federal or state money for any elective abortion, as opposed to Governor Christ, who didn't do it. I'm going to sign that bill into law. I'm going to sign that bill. I believe, as I suspect everyone in this room does, that life begins at the moment of conception. I believe very deeply in that. I'm pro-life. I've had a 100% pro-life voting record when I was in Congress. I believe in marriage between a man and a woman. I strongly supported the Defense of Marriage Act. As your governor, I'm going to govern that way. I'm going to govern on that basis. And I'll veto any provision that proposes funding for embryonic cell research or anything else that violates the basic tenets of our faith. Now, having said that, I want to talk to you about the other thing that's troubling me in our state right now. It's a very troubling thing. We have a high unemployment rate. It's one of the highest in the country. Here in Miami, it's 12.8%. We're hurting as a state. And as your next governor, the #1 priority I'm going to have is to be the Chief Economic Development Officer and to find jobs and grow jobs and get people to have those opportunities that they need to have to get to work. And I'll tell you how we're going to do that. I have a plan vetted with Steve Forbes that would create 500,000 new jobs in Florida over the next 6 years. It involves the simple Reagan ideas. We're going to reduce certain taxes that are critical. We're going to reduce the regulatory burden on small businesses. We're going to dramatically improve the public education system of our state. We're going to have true lawsuit or litigation reform that's long overdue. We're going to go get with it in a way that we go out and recruit businesses to move their headquarters to our state, to move their production facilities here, and to get this state growing again as it should be growing. That's very critical as your next governor. And I'll tell you what else I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to stand up, as some of the candidates for Attorney General alluded to the federal government. I will tell you that there's nothing prouder than I did when I was Attorney General or have done than 7 minutes after the President signed Obamacare into law, I filed a lawsuit to have it declared unconstitutional. We've been joined by 19 other states and the National Federation of Independents to fight this law, and we believe deeply, I believe, we're going to win it. It's not going to be simple. We're going to have a motion to dismiss. It will be held September 14th. We filed our brief arguing our case yesterday. We're going to win that motion to dismiss. The judge is going to rule, hopefully this year. It's going to go on to the United States Supreme Court, probably be a 5-4 decision because there are 4 liberal justices that think that federal government can do anything it wants under the Commerce Clause, but we're going to win that. You know what? I also had an article yesterday I'm very proud of in the Wall Street Journal that said a headline. I couldn't have written this better myself, but I'm very proud of that article. It read, McCollum versus Obamacare. And it wasn't about me so much as it was about the principles that are involved in this case. I'm the spear carrier at the moment for this. But the reality is there are a lot of us in this room and elsewhere around the country that understand what's happening in Washington today, taking away the rights of states to do things, taking away the fundamental right of individuals. The separation of state and federal government couldn't be clearer. There were only certain enumerated powers that the Congress was given by the Founding Fathers when they wrote the Constitution. And those enumerated powers are very clear. The rest of the powers are left to the states. The rest of the powers are here. And as your next governor, I'm going to fight, as I'm doing as your Attorney General, every step of the way to protect those rights, to fight for our states, to fight for the individuals, to fight for you and me. One of those areas is the police powers of our state. I know my opponent has said several times things that just simply are misinterpreting in my views. I do strongly support the Arizona immigration law as amended after the fact. I do not support racial profiling, but I support when legal immigration, and I support when somebody is arrested for a crime or stopped or detained, they should be checked to see if they're legal or illegal. That's something our police ought to be doing now. They have the right to do, but they've not always done. So I support that. But not only that, I intervened in that lawsuit out there to defend the constitutionality of that because police powers are inherently left to the states. The states have the right, whether it's Michigan or Florida or Arizona, to enforce laws, state or federal. We may choose where and how and when, but those are our rights. And I'm going to defend those when I'm your governor. And last but not least, I want to tell you that this election isn't just about policy. This election is about leadership. It's about character. It's about integrity. It's about honor. It's about trust. It's about what we need to do to direct our state for the benefit of our children and our grandchildren. I meant it when I said that's why I'm running. I'm not running to be governor of this state, so much as I'm running to govern. I'm not running because this election is about me. This election is about you. It's about your children and your grandchildren. It is about making Florida a better place. If we do it right, we're going to have a state where anybody with the initiative can start a small business and grow it and make a living for their family. We're going to have a state where every child can get a 21st century education and where good teachers are rewarded with merit pay. And we're going to have a state where when you worked all your life with the sweat of your brow and you put aside your savings and you live well, you can retire and enjoy that and hopefully pass a little of that on to your children and grandchildren. And we're going to have a state where the beaches and the rivers and the lakes and the streams are there for our children and our grandchildren, and will be, at that point, a better Florida for them than it is today for us. I'm looking forward to being your governor and leading this state. I appreciate your vote on August 24th. We're going to win with your help then, and we're going to win in November, and I'm going to be your next governor. Thank you so much. God bless you.